Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, the chapter 18, the text 36 through 39, and we will be discussing happiness. Anybody interested in happiness or would like to have some? Who doesn't want happiness? Who likes misery? Raise your hand if you like misery. You like misery? Oh, okay.
I like misery so that I can remember Krishna.
Misery, okay. Okay, so. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, 36. Who's going to read 36? We'll read each of them. One person will read it and we'll respond, and then you read the word for word, verse and purport, and then next. Shinu me varatarsabha abhyasad yamati raja dukkantamachi nigachati. Read the word for word. Sukham, happiness. Do, but. Shunu, here, may, Tarshabha, the best among the bards. By practice. One enjoys. Where dukkha, of distress. Anantam, the end. Cha, also. Nigachati.
Translation. O best of Bharat, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which sometimes comes to a all distress. Purport. The conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus he chooses the tune. But sometimes in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by the association with the great soul. In other words, the conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification. But when understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness.
Text 37. Yatta agre visham iva
pariname amrutonupam
pariname anatupanam
tat sukham satvikam proktam
tat sukham tat pitam proktam
atma buddhi prasadajam
atma buddhi prasadajam
yat
which
tat that agre in the beginning visham iva like poison pariname at the end amrita nectar upamam compared to tat that Sukham,
Sukham,
happiness.
happiness.
Satvikam,
Satvikam,
in the mode of goodness.
mode of goodness.
Proktam,
Oktam,
is said.
is said.
Atma,
Atma,
in the self. Buddhi,
Buddhi,
of intelligence. Prasadajam,
Jam,
born of the satisfaction.
satisfaction.
That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport: in the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life.
38. Manam. Pariname Vishaniva. Sukham Rajasukhatam. Vijaya.
Of the objects of the senses.
Of the objects of the senses.
Indriya.
Indriya.
And the senses.
And the senses.
Samyogat. From the combination.
From the combination.
Yet,
Which?
that, agre,
Agre.
in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Amrita upamanam.
Amrita Upamam.
Just like nectar.
Just like nectar.
Parine. Pariname. At the end.
At the end.
Visham.
Visham.
Visham iva.
Visham.
Like poison.
Like poison.
That.
That.
Sukham. Happiness. Rajasam.
Rajasam.
The mode of passion.
Mode of passion.
Smritam.
Is considered.
Translation. The happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. Purport. A young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive young man to see her, to touch her, and to have a sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce. There is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means.
Bring the microphone to her. Text 39. So, yes.
Yet agrijanubandhicha Sukham
Atmanam
Idralasha pramadutam Tantamasam udaritam
Tattamasam udaritam.
Yet
Yat.
that which
Agree.
in the beginning
In the beginning.
Cha
Also.
Anubandhi at the end Cha also Sukham
Happiness.
Mohanam
Illusory.
Atmana of the self
Nidra.
sleep Alasya
Laziness. Pramada.
and illusion
Uttam.
produced of Tat, that, Tamasam, in the mode of ignorance. Udaritam is
Said to be.
Translation. And at that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance, and one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress both in the beginning and at the end.
Om Jnanatimranya Sagina Gina Salakaya Chaksurin Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So which one of these happiness is attractive to people? Passion mostly. But it also depends what mode they're in. Mode's kind of like weather. If the temperature goes to 50 degrees Celsius, we are thinking about going to swim, right? At the Kusum Sarovara, Govindakund. If the temperature is freezing, we are thinking of indoors and bundling up. When the mode is right, when the temperature is 50 degrees Celsius here, you can't sell skiing equipment, can you? But if you're in Himachal Pradesh and it's winter, you can sell the ski equipment. So depending on the mode that someone is in, that's what kind of happiness they're attracted to. That's the trouble with getting in a particular mode, is that whatever mode you are in, those things will seem to be attractive. And it only, we keep thinking, boy, someone had a t-shirt. The body I wear is much too fragile for the life I lead. Which do we have more of? The desire to enjoy sense gratification or the ability? The desire exceeds the ability?
Yes.
But people are thinking that this is the essence of life. One person sang a song. He says, I'm just a very simple man. I really only need 4 things in life. Older whiskey, younger women, faster cars, and more money. Now, will that make the person live longer or shorter? Yes, so all the things become a detriment that we have if we're in the wrong mode. If you're in the mode of ignorance and you have a desire for intoxication, is money an asset or a problem? A problem. If you want to do devotional service and support a family in Krishna consciousness, is money an asset or a problem? It's an asset. So the best investing we do is to invest ourselves in Krishna consciousness first. That way everything becomes an asset and nothing becomes a detriment. But based on these modes here, we figure that, well, here's what really must be the case, right? The ignorance looks bad because it is suffering in the beginning and at the end, right? What kinds of happiness would be happiness in the mode of ignorance? Think of one. Can you name one? Drinking alcohol? Drugs? Sleeping? What else?
Intimate relation.
No.
That's passion.
What else? What else is in ignorance? What did it say here? We just read some of the things, and we know some of the things are in the mode of ignorance. What else? What do people, we read about food. What is food in the mode of ignorance? What? Meat. So going along with meat, why don't we eat meat?
Killing.
Because it involves killing. So people in the mode of ignorance are more violent? They like to hurt other people? Is that true? That's how we can see that mode working. So this must not be the best kind of happiness, right? But then we figure on the other end, the happiness in the mode of goodness, it doesn't always start out easy, does it? In the beginning, you may have to do some austerity. It may not seem so good. But then there's the other kind of happiness, where right away you get happiness. That must be the best, right? Because right away there's pleasure. Does the mind tell you that? Does the mind tell you that? It doesn't? Maybe now it doesn't, but for most people, does the mind tell people? Because it looks that way. They even did some scientific experiments. There's a part of the brain that works on rational behavior. And so they would show them pictures of beautiful men or women, men for the women and women for the men. And when they got lusty desires, the part of the brain that has rational thinking was much less active. Now, of course, we know that, but they're scientifically proving this to be the fact. So, what happens in the mode of passion? We want what we want when we want it. And that means it must be good for us, right? But that's the thinking. If I want it, it must be good for me. Is it not true? That's what people are thinking. And so it seems like this is great happiness. And sometimes when they're so involved with this mode, I was listening to Prabhupada speak on the mind today in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. He says that mind is the friend or the enemy. He said, just like you're your own friend, if you tell yourself to do helpful things, and if you tell yourself to do things that make you unhappy, you must be your own worst enemy. Isn't it true? If you tell us, oh, I'll go out and hit my head against the wall, I will go out and do things that make myself suffer. Am I my own best friend? No. So that's what we see. Is the mind telling me things that will bring me happiness? Or is the mind telling me things that will give me distress? And if it's telling me things that will give me distress, you give it a good slap. Or beat it with a shoe or a broomstick, tell it, be quiet. Fill the mind with knowledge. We try to do like they say with the computer. Garbage goes in, garbage comes out. But we don't use garbage, we use Krishna conscious knowledge. Krishna conscious knowledge goes in, feeds the intelligence, then the intelligence directs the mind. Just like the horse, you keep pulling it into shape. Eventually it will become tame. But if you let it run wild, we'll be in all kinds of trouble. So passion seems like the best one, because it appears that everything is wonderful. Quite often that's the way they go out to a bar at night, and especially when you mix the passion and ignorance. And what is it that make the men and women who are maybe not so good looking or ugly look better? What makes them look better? Alcohol. If a one drink makes somebody who's fair look good, like 3 or 4 drinks makes someone who's semi-ugly look okay, and like 10 drinks makes the ugly one look really, really good, right? And it all looks good and wonderful. So the man and woman get together and they go home. The trouble is, the woman's thinking in her mode of passion, oh, this man wants me, he must really love me, he's going to take care of me. Now remember, they met in a place like a bar where they are trying to hook up, as they say, just meet whoever they can. And what happens is the woman is thinking this, and the man is followed by his lusty desires. And then after the sex is finished, the man feels, oh no, what did I do? Oh, I have to go home and feed my fish now, or something, and the woman is wondering what happened. And he feels like, why did I even do that? Because once he's over, then the rational thinking somewhat returns. And he's thinking, why did I do that? And much better, like, which is better, to run in front of a car and then think you shouldn't have done that? Or decide not to do it ahead of time? Not to do it ahead of time. But the rational thinking is gone out because this mode of passion is so strong, and with the mode of ignorance involved, they're not going to have any intelligence to help along. So now both the woman is wondering where he went and he's wondering why he went there in the first place. This is very much different than people getting together for Dharma and trying to lead a Krishna conscious life. So it seemed like nectar in the beginning, but then they both became frustrated afterwards. Based on the lust, they acted on something, and then there's some kind of either attachment where it shouldn't be, or they did something they didn't really want to do. You know, you feel a lot worse doing something you didn't want to do than saying, you know what, I don't think I want to do that. Let me not try that. But when you have either passion or ignorance, in passion, we see there that they're under some illusion. The trouble with this, what happens is, I remember reading this, in the mode of goodness, it seems like it's a little distressful. It's poison, like when you have jaundice, the sugar candy does not taste sweet, but as it becomes sweet, it becomes sweeter and sweeter, and it always gets better. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, an unlimited ocean of expanding bliss. Whereas in the ignorance, it starts bad and gets worse. It's already bad, but it can get worse. Just when they think it couldn't get worse, it did. That's the mode of ignorance. Now in the mode of passion, we think we're going to have this Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, an ever-expanding ocean of bliss. I will go out and enjoy my senses, and it will get better and better all the time. That's what the advertisement said, wasn't it? But I remember in the junior high, I think they call it middle school now, I read something called the law of diminishing returns. I wasn't happy about this. They said in advertising, they realize that the more people take of something, the less they'll enjoy it. Like they said with a cigarette, are you smoking more and enjoying it less? What's the answer? Yes. Switch to another brand. That was the solution. But of course it isn't a real solution, right? Yeah, switch to another brand. That's what their solution was. That's like Gunarnava was reading today, that sometimes the solution is worse than the problem. Switch to another brand. Because of course they're smoking more and enjoying it less. So that's why they said when you buy the soda, say there's the 12-ounce soda. The price per ounce is more than the 2-liter one. You know why? The more you drink of the soda, the less you enjoy it. But we want to enjoy more, but we're enjoying less. So as we're expecting more, we're getting less. It'd be as if your income goes down and your expenses go up. This does happen to people sometimes, doesn't it? But you find that each time it gets harder and harder. You're struggling harder and getting less in return. Isn't it true? Especially mode of passion. Men and women look good at a certain age, what? 15 to 25, 35, maybe 40. But at ages of 60 and 70, can they go out and attract younger members? With money? If they have money, yes. If they have money, yeah. Yes. They can go out and find a woman who wants to be a companion to their money. So they called those, you know what those are called? No, that's the man, but what do they call the woman who looks for the man with money?
Money digger. Oh.
That's almost it. What is it? Gold digger, yes, gold digger, yes. They are looking for the ones there. They say that in the city of Newport Beach, next to Laguna Beach, where many rich men are. They say, when does the Newport Beach woman enjoy a man's company? When he owns it. So, this is the mode of passion, where it looks so great that, boy, I better just have that now. Isn't it? Like the one person thinks, even if they're somewhat influenced by passion, well, I can go to a bar and get a girl now, Or I can wait till they find the proper one to be married to and live a Krishna conscious lifestyle together. But the main thing is to get it now, right? Like you can eat some week-old bread now, or you can wait till prasadam is served. So it's better just to get what you can now, right? Is it? No. But quite often we think that way. Patience is a virtue, but it's not something that's in the mode of passion. We have to be in the mode to appreciate that, in the mode of goodness. And that's why with these things we have to place ourselves in a proper position. Because all these things seem like happiness. So why would somebody turn to the mode of ignorance? Well, from a feeling, that may be part of it, but why would they continue to turn to it? What happens in that mode? What?
From their own distress.
Well, what does the mode of ignorance do for them? Temporary forget. You don't feel the problem. So it appears that it went away. This is the problem with the mode of passion. Generally, they tell people, say someone is having the problem with alcohol. The general materialist says, just go get a job and work hard, and then you'll forget about that. But the problem is, without a spiritual solution, the mode of passion, when you get frustrated, then what happens? Back to what? The alcohol. And will you be frustrated in the mode of passion? Yes. So you can't solve the ignorance by passion. It may temporarily uplift you, but this is generally what they say. Go get a job, work hard, do this. But you have to have a spiritual condition which may seem bitter in the beginning, especially if the person is removing themselves from the intoxication. Does that seem like bitter? Are they suffering because of lack of intoxication? But why are they suffering from it? Because they took it in the first place. It created a condition that is hard for them to get away from. I remember in Paris, France, we would go on Harinama and we would smell the horrible meat they're cooking in the street. And I'm wondering, why are they cooking this? And the other devotee said, because it attracts the people in the mode of ignorance. They love the smell of rotting flesh. So we have to see the happiness in this, that even though the mode of passion appears to get us out of the condition of unhappiness quickly, it gets us into more distress. Especially, like we were saying with the advertisement, what the person thinks he's going to enjoy in the mode of passion, how he thinks it's going to be, is much greater than how it really is. Is it not true? It's much, the idea of it is so much greater than what you really get. But the idea seems great. But that's the illusion. So the one in passion is in illusion. He's not sure what to do. Now what about the person in the mode of ignorance? What's different? The person in passion is in illusion, means he's not quite sure what to do. What is the person in the mode of ignorance in? What was the word that was used there? Sounds like illusion, but it begins with D? Delusion. And what's the difference? Someone know? Illusion, you're not sure. You're confused. You're not sure the right way to go. Delusion means that you're convinced of something for sure. You're not confused. You're convinced the wrong thing is the right thing, in spite of all kinds of evidence to support it. The evidence is against you, and yet you're sure that this is the best thing to do. The person in the mode of ignorance does not appear to be confused. To him, the wrong thing is the right thing. Person in the mode of passion isn't sure. If you're not sure, then there's some hope to get direction. But if you're sure that the wrong direction, just like the things that people like Hitler and Stalin did, taking over other countries, they were sure that this was the right thing to do. Isn't it? They were sure of this. How they're acting. We see how Prabhupada came to America, and the anti-Vietnam War was going on, and the civil rights was going on, and they just want people to live by the real principles. In the movie about Prabhupada, Martin Luther King says, we just want the government to do in reality what it says on paper. I feel like that sometimes when they're chanting the songs, that we just want you to sing it the way it's actually written on the paper. Because, surprise, surprise, if they're singing it differently than how it's written on the board, then it's a little confusing for us. That makes sense, doesn't it? If it's written one way and they're putting letters in that aren't actually in there. So the delusion is this: you're sure that what is wrong is the right thing to do. But we see there's the difference in the happiness is that in the mode of goodness, you're getting happiness within by doing the proper things. In the spiritual mode of goodness, you're getting happiness within by contacting the super soul or contacting Krishna. In the mode of passion, it's external. You're looking to get the senses on some sense object. So you're always looking for something outside yourself. And then you get this illusion that the material world is here for my enjoyment. But that may not be true. Feel that, wow, this whole thing was created for my enjoyment. Look at this. It's here for my enjoyment. Just like you're driving down the road and the stoplights are there and the first three are green when you come to them, so you say, hey, the whole thing is designed for me to always hit a green light. So the fourth light you don't bother to stop, but it's red and you get hit. So when it looks like things are going our way, it may actually put us in a worse situation. So a lot of this takes some introspection to look inside, to understand how these things are working, and to look at things before we do them. We use the intelligence, not to try to just find ways and means to enjoy sense gratification. When the senses are controlling the mind, then the intelligence works just to find ways and means to enjoy sense gratification. But to use the intelligence properly, when something is presented before us, we pause. We do a cost to value ratio. And the way we do this, we're thinking is, if everything I do, everything I eat, and all I offer should be done as an offering to Krishna, can I offer this to Krishna? Someone says, oh, here, drink this liquor. Will that help my service to Krishna? No. They say, oh, here, let's go out and meet some young women. Will that be good service to Krishna? Which also means it's not good we can even look at. Besides that, is it good for us? No, it won't be good for us or be good for Krishna's service. So we have to look at each thing carefully, right? Because the things we do in life, quite often, sometimes they say you're at a crossroads. You could make the choice of matter or make the choice of Krishna. But how often does this happen? Once every 10 years? Or it can happen every day, can't it? Things can come up that the choice I make will determine where I'm going. I read that on the wall somewhere. It says that the things I think about, the things I think about become the things I say. The things I talk about become the things I do. The things I do create my character, and my character creates what my destination will be. So we think about that. What we do our thoughts create our words, and our words create our actions, and that creates our character, and that determines where we're going. So let's see, where are we going? Where do we want to go? They drink the alcohol, they're going to be further and further embedded in this. It's going to be much harder to get out. When we're doing the spiritual actions, we purify ourselves. But we should think of each thing carefully. Of course, the things we've already thought about. The alarm rings, we know, okay, it's time to get up. Okay, then I go to the temple. We know what happens there. We know what to do with our beads. And we know certain things not to do. But it's all the middle of the road things. If someone is going to get a job, how will this job affect me? Who do I have to associate with? We should analyze things carefully to see how it will affect our devotional life. Because it's much better to make a choice before we do something than do it afterwards. See what it is. Like if I tell you, hey, you want to buy a piece of property? Buy it from me for 1 crore. Well, first you want to see what the property is and see, is it only worth 0.5 crore or is it worth 2 crores? You want to do the proper investigation. So the things that we don't know about, we don't make a choice. But we should see it in relation to these modes. Which mode is it in? If someone says, do you want some alcohol? Which mode is that in? If someone says, would you like some prasadam? Then we look at that. But even then we analyze, like on Ekadasi. That's why the things that we do every day are easier than the things that come once in a while. It's easier to be a vegetarian every day than follow Ekadasi twice a month. Because if I never eat meat, then I don't have to think about it. But you can get confused. It's easier to break Ekadasi than to end up eating meat, isn't it? You might get confused about which day it was. And yet it only comes like 1 day out of 14. Because we're not sure of it. So the things that we're not sure of, we don't make choices on. We look at it in relationship to Scripture. We talk it over with others and we see, where is this coming from? And generally we can see, if something's gnawing at us, creating frustration, and we have to look outside of ourselves to get it, what mode is it in? What mode? Something seems attractive outside ourselves, and we're frustrated because we really want that passion. And if we have a little intelligence, we see that once we get that, we'll be frustrated. It won't be what we wanted. It'll create attachment to something we didn't want to be attached to. And so we have to think that all the way through before we take actions that are new actions. People take one action and their whole life can change, just like that. So it behooves us to study how these modes are working. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And even though goodness itself isn't spiritual, it leads to spiritual life. You see, like the people who study. They study, that maybe they don't get paid when they go to college, but when they get out, the income is much greater. So they did a little austerity and they got some benefit. But we do the same spiritually. And Krishna gives us some mercy. As we see him taking away the desires for the lower modes, we should consider this a miracle. And if that's already starting to work, then you don't go back and, right, just like let's say you've been sick and you're taking some medicine and the intestinal amoebas are going away. Do you go get a glass and put it in the sewer and drink some more water? Do we? That's what it's like to go back. As we see ourselves getting better, then we still go back and do the things that made us feel worse. We have to think about all the way through. What is this going to do? What kind of happiness am I going to end up with? And we see that many people in this world try so hard to be happy. And what 3 ways do they try to be happy? goodness, passion, and ignorance. And what we have to do is help people understand these so that they can understand how these different things are working. We have to let the thoughts of Bhagavad-Gita get into their head so that they can have this working awareness of where this particular happiness will lead, so that they can get it in their mind, and we have to plant it in their mind. I'll show you how we plant it in their mind. Come forward for a second. I want you to come up here. Now we're talking about three kinds of happiness. One happiness is the mode of goodness, where it's like poison in the beginning and it's nectar in the end. The mode of passion is nectar in the beginning but poison in the end. And the mode of ignorance is misery in the beginning and it's misery in the end. So I want you for 10 seconds to think about one of those three kinds of happiness. Think about it for 10 seconds. Okay, now tell me which one it is. Tell me which one.
The one that is bitter in the beginning, or goodness.
Okay, look in the glasses case. What does it say? What does it say? Read it.
Goodness, poison beginning, nectar in the end.
See? So we have to get people to be able to think these things in their own mind. We have to plant it in their mind so that when they think of it, they thought they were the one thinking of it. Just like there, you thought that you were the one thinking of it, but we plant it in their mind so that the same way we have to plant it in our own mind. Okay, what's the result of this? Hey, you want some of this? And you look how it's affecting the people. I remember I was in Calcutta, and one person came up to me. He looked very disheveled. And he said, "You want to buy some morphine?" I said, "Why, do you take it?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Oh, maybe I don't want it because you don't look like you're doing so well." And of course, he needed to get a cue of it because, they're killing themselves, right? That's why sometimes with these things, they try so hard in countries to keep all these things illegal, and then people think they aren't so bad. In Portugal, they made every drug legal. And they asked the high school girls, "Now that all the drugs are legal, do you want to take them?" They said no, because the people who are taking them don't look like they're doing very well. So this is the intelligence to realize that, that's why someone like Vaisheshika distributes books. Figure, he has happiness. If I read what he did, I'll become happy. If someone is taking something and they're miserable, if you take it, what will happen? You also become miserable, right? This person comes looking all disheveled and says, "Oh, you should work for my company." Do you have money? No, but you should work for mine. Or if someone looks like they're doing well, then you may want to do what they're doing. So we look at that right away. If somebody's miserable, they must not be doing something good. That's why when others look at us, and if we appear to be happy, they think you must be doing something that works. And that's why we do that in our life. So we have to analyze these things and remember where this is going to lead me. Not think, wow, that looks good, I want that. That's what the rat thinks when he goes to the chuha. He sees they put the cheese on the trap, and he goes, "Wow, I'll go get that." And then what happens? Right? Because it looked good, but we have to see, okay, what is the catch to this? Right? There's a catch. Now here they have traps that don't kill them quite often. But in America, they squish them, And so we have to think these things through. Even if it's a little austerity, is it going to make me happier in the long run? Is it going to be a little difficult now, but better later? Or am I going to get in some kind of trouble I can't get out of? They call it like the person is hooked on drugs. You know what they call it, hooked? It's like the fish sees the bait, and he bites the hook. And then the person lets the fish go out. Fish thinks he's fine, right? But at any time they can just reel him in because he's already hooked. He's already, the fisherman has control of him. Before he does it, you have a choice of doing it or not doing it. But when we become hooked on a particular mode, now we are controlled by that mode like the fish is controlled by the fisherman. So when we think happiness comes from freedom, and freedom comes from being dependent on Krishna, it's called the regulative principles of freedom. It isn't as if these principles are being forced on us by Emily Post, who writes the book on etiquette, or that they don't want us to have any fun on Saturday night, so they tell us not to go drink liquor. That's not it. These things are bad for us. The people who thought they had fun on Saturday night, how are they Sunday morning? Yes, with a big bad headache, right? Saying, I'll never do that again. Does that work? Till next time. So we have to imbibe this knowledge in our head and in our heart. And when we don't have it ourselves, ask others. And we realize if we do what someone else did, we'll get what they got. If the person is drunken in the street, we do that, we'll be there. If the person is practicing devotional actions, we also do those. We will become more devotee-like. So we have to pick who and what we're following very carefully, and then do it with determination, not just haphazard. I'll take some of this, take some of that. We have to be very sure of what we're doing before we do it, and understand what kind of happiness we'll get. Any questions or comments about this? Yes? Does that make you happy? This information? Yes? Yes.
Suppose there is a movement in India, just like when this November 25th, they celebrate Meatless Day. And they go to Hare Krishna temples and everywhere. They said, you sign this one that you are not going to have a meat on 25th. But we are not having. But you people are having, and that day, 365 days they have meat, and one day they want to celebrate the Meatless Day. They say, this is we are offering this thing one day, Meatless Day for our Guru. So
Yes.
that means so many animals won't be killed one day. That is the most in ignorance, they are in the mode of ignorance, and they are celebrating the very in a luxury way. Throughout the world they go everywhere and they make the signing, people that you sign here that you are not going to have meat on 25th November.
I guess it's a start. Here's the good thing, is if you never eat it, but you forgot which day was the meatless day, then you followed it, right? Oh, was it November 25th? Or was it October 2nd? Or was it December 14th? Well, I'll just have to never eat it, so that way, whatever day it was, I followed it. But sometimes, it's just a little start. I once asked, a few things on that. I once asked Jayapataka Swami. He came to Bangalore. This was in 1979. And there's always been some kind of trouble in Bangalore. The one devotee had he collected money and kept some of it. And Jayapataka Swami had a disciple there who had a whole list of things he wanted from the Guru, but he didn't have much to give. So I said, how do you reconcile this, that he has so many things? Can you do this? Can you borrow the car? Can I do this? He says, well, sometimes you just have to think like the Swami did when the miser, Kripana, came to his house. And, he went to the Kripana's house. And he put his cloth out, and the miser went and got some coal, put the coal in his cloth. And the sannyasi says, thank you so much. And the Kripana miser said, how can you thank me? I threw coal in your cloth. And the sannyasi said, because you're such a miser, any giving you do, it all is good. It doesn't even matter what it is. So quite often it depends where someone is coming from. And this is how in Krishna consciousness, you see somewhere like at the Radha Gopinath temple in Chaupati, they have a situation where you have some people who are so dedicated, and some people who come and take part regular, and people who can just come. And so the thing is to have all of it available. Somebody asked Prabhupada once, Prabhupada, we should be very conservative, shouldn't we? Prabhupada says yes, and liberal too. So we have to know how, if somebody went from chanting one round a day and then stopped taking to 4 rounds and stop taking intoxication, then wow, that's an encouragement. But if someone's been chanting 16 and they go back to 4, then you think, well, what went wrong then? So for them, that's a good start. You know, the Catholics used to not eat meat on Fridays, and then many of them give it up for Lent, which is like 40 days from February. And then they have a celebration in New Orleans, and in Rio de Janeiro, it's called Carnivale, the day before Lent. You know what Carnivale means? Who knows what it means? It means goodbye to meat. Carnivale, goodbye to meat. So we celebrate Carnivale, right? Goodbye to meat. But they do it for 40 days, but I think it means they eat a lot of meat on that day probably, and they drink a lot of alcohol, and they go crazy that day, right? The people at the carnival, that's why I call it a carnival. It's the carnival comes from that, meaning like people are going crazy and having a big party, because they do that before they give it up. But we don't do that. The day before initiation, you don't go chase a bunch of women and take a bunch of intoxication, right? We don't do that like the day before. But at least they're giving it up for the 40 days. That's a good start. So it's amazing. Even though we have a goal, we have to know how to get people started. And this is the advantage, like Narada Muni, when he saw the hunter. And the hunter was half killing the animals. So Narada Muni thought he would start easy, because what we want to do is just get people started. Like it's funny, some people feel funny coming to our temple, because you go to some churches, they either think you're an outsider, or they talk to you about it for 5 minutes before you even went in and say, do you want to join our church now? Before you even saw an artik or went to a class, which means, you have to have faith in that person. If I talk to you for 5 minutes and then ask you to join this, that means you have to have faith in me. So we don't ask that. We say, come and watch what we do. If you'd like to, you can participate in the chanting, but just come and watch. We want people to come and try it. Right? You wouldn't say, oh, admit that our restaurant is the best restaurant. I say, no, come and try it and see what you think of it. Let them come and try it. So we get people started easy. This is why Prabhupada says we go in like a needle and out like a plow. We start easy. Just get people to come and watch what we do. They don't have to move in the brahmachari ashram. They don't have to commit to come every day or once a week or twice a month. Just come and watch the kirtan, see the deities, and then come back again. That's why if somebody comes to a program at the temple, rather than defeating them in a philosophical argument, feel like you're their friend and they want to come back again next week. It's a small goal, but you start with something easy, because that's easy to accomplish. It's easy to make a friend and have them want to come back next time, rather than force them into doing what you're doing before they're ready to do it. So what we have to do is make the things available. Like when you go in a restaurant, do they tell you what you should eat, or do they give you a menu with choices? Just like if someone's smart in doing service, you're trying to get congregation people to do service. And listen, we're cleaning up after the Sunday feast. Would you like to do the sweeping, the mopping, or mop the pot, wash the pots in the kitchen? Which would you like to do? The choice is yours. And how about you? Which one would you like to do? The choice is all yours. Either way, what is it doing? It's like going ahead. It's like saying, you can buy my product, I'm not particular. You can pay cash, you can write a check, you can put it on a credit card. It doesn't matter, the choice is all yours. The point that either way, they're going ahead with it. So what we tried to do is get people started at least. Say, that's great. You know what, maybe you could try that the 25th of every month, or the 25th of next month, also come back and see if it works good 2 months in a row. Start easy with them. The fact that they're here, that's a good start. You don't say, hey, where were you yesterday? Right? You want to make them feel like they want to come back. That's the whole idea. Because they have a course called Human Relations in Business. And see if you can determine what these 3 styles of management show the difference. Number 1 is the custodian. The custodian just sort of lets things happen. Doesn't try to interact much. The authoritarian is in charge and you have to listen to him and he wants the results right now. The motivator tries to encourage people to want to do the best they can and get them to want to do it for their own good. Now, what do these three styles of management relate to? Can you see what the difference is? What's the difference between the custodian, the authoritarian, and the motivator? The three different modes. Okay, somebody name one of them. Which one? What one is the custodian?
Goodness.
No. The motivator's goodness. The motivator's goodness. And how about the authoritarian? Passion. And the custodian? Ignorance. Now, some person may read about these things, and this is why we have to imbibe these modes. But if he is so much attached to being in charge, even if he reads that being a motivator will produce better results, what will he do? He'll still be the authoritarian because he's in that mode, because we're governed by these modes. Goes back to the concept, the best thing you can do is improve yourself first. Because if you don't bring yourself somewhat to goodness, it's going to be hard to act in that way. You're going to want to be that authoritarian so bad you don't care if the result is better. So the first thing to do is get yourself in the right mode. And then you're successfully spiritually and materially. So that's the first thing to work with. But we see how these modes are there in things they hadn't even considered. But as that saying goes, pretty is as pretty does. You know, the mode they're going to act by, the mode that they're in, more than what they've read might be a good thing to do. The person who reads that drinking alcohol may be bad, but he's had a couple of drinks already, will he go out and drink more, or will he read about what's good for him? Now, if he stopped drinking for a while and then read that, because at least he's in a little bit of goodness, right? Then it may have some effect. So the main thing to do is bring ourselves to goodness, spiritual goodness, and then all the things will become clear, and we will get the right understanding, and we will also perform the right actions. Any other question or comment?
We bring them in goodness. We say in the just like New Year, you have programs outside. 31st December, you come to the temple. We have Harinam. We do Kirtan. We give nice prasadam. We have nice feast, and we do Harinam on the beach.
Yes.
So this one on 31st, we invite people for the goodness. And one of the family I know, they wanted to go for outside club. But when they came here, they said, okay, we are interested here, but we cancel the program of club and we sit here and chant and take nice prasadam and associate with devotees and devotees.
Yes.
Giving so many wonderful stories. So
Because you think of the future, okay, what will I have to do and how will I feel tomorrow? You come to the temple, you know, you maybe give a little donation for prasadam, you have spiritually enlightening talks, you chant, you go to bed feeling good about yourself, and you wake up refreshed. You go to the club and they serve drinks for free? No, it makes you miserable, and yet they make you pay, and yet you pay for it. Imagine this, right? What's amazing, things like cigarettes that to sane people you couldn't even give them to them if they paid you. Would you smoke one if they paid you to smoke it? And yet they go and buy them. This is not crazy, right? So you think how much money they spend and yet you feel worse? At least if I'm going to spend money, I should feel better, shouldn't I? Think about it. If I'm going to spend money, I should feel better, not worse. Any other question or comment? Or everyone's so much in the mode of goodness and spiritualized, they understand it already. Yes, there's the microphone.
Prabhuji, just now we discussed about goodness, passion and ignorance. And ignorance, you are given the examples, custodian.
Which?
Custodian. Just now we are
Custodian, yes.
I don't understand. How it
Well,
is
because he just, the mode of ignorance you ignore. You let things just sort of happen on its own. You go get drunk and you don't care what happens. So the custodian just lets things happen. He doesn't care much what's going on. He has no concern to it. Yes. Pass the mic to him. Ignorance means ignoring, so he's ignoring it, not caring.
There is one example that the mode of goodness, or a person makes things happen.
Yes.
In the mode of passion, well, maybe it's not perfect, but anyway, one type of person makes things happen, another type of person watches things happen, and the third type of person says, "What's happening?" Anyway, good job.
Anything else, or shall we quit there? Like Bhadrinarayan Swami says, better to quit and wish there'd been more than go on so long they'd wish they'd stopped earlier, yes? All right, Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.